Good morning and welcome to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents our MLB DFS Pitcher Picks for Saturday, June 24th, 2017. It's going to be an interesting slate of games tonight. It was an interesting slate of games last night. Just really not a ton of action. Really left a lot to be desired. Thankfully, due to a late Tommy Joseph home run, who was in our 3-pack of videos, I believe, yesterday. It's sad to admit that I can't remember one day to the next, but I believe he was in our video yesterday. Thanks to a late inning home run by him, we definitely saw ourselves on the favorable side of the cash line in a lot of our lineups, so that was a plus. But it's going to be another crazy night tonight. I think the first place I want to start with my pitching is with Dinelson Lamet at 7,600 on FanDuel. Here's the thing with Dinelson Lamet. He's going to have one of two outcomes on this slate. Outcome A is that he gets royally pounded by the Tigers and he ends up giving up 7 runs in 3 innings and he posts a low single digit or even worse, a negative score. And that's certainly possible. We've seen him do that basically 2 out of 5 times. The other 3 times we've seen him go at least 5 innings, record at least 8 strikeouts, and end up with a win in those starts. He has yet to actually record one outing where he has a win and a quality start. So last time out against Milwaukee in Chase Field, in Miller Park, 6 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 12 strikeouts, 3 earned runs, doesn't get the win, gets a quality start, 49 fantasy points. 7,600 on FanDuel. That is a great bargain. He comes in at 13.5 on Fantasy Draft, 6,800, making him the perfect SP2 for tournaments on DraftKings. We saw Luis Perdomo, who granted is a righty and has a very high ground ball rate, take care of the Tigers last night. I'm really not that afraid to go back to the well tonight. This is a good pitching situation. Obviously, we have some concerns, because this Padres offense sometimes just doesn't get going, but I'm willing to roll with them tonight. After that, it's a deep breath and a lot of question marks. Can't feel comfortable about Tyler Chatwood not playing a righty, even though he's been pretty solid outside of Coors Field this year. I'm just not feeling taking the risk on him. Garrett Cole, just honestly somebody I never play. Just doesn't seem to carry enough upside for me, though he has pitched much better in the last couple of games. Johnny Cueto just has not seemed very good at all this year. David Price, you could echo the same thing I just said about him, about not being very good. He has one stellar outing against Baltimore, and he's taking on an Angels team that doesn't strike out a ton, which, limits the upside there. So, as crazy as it might sound, I'm probably going to go with Lance McCullers Jr. Now, take this with a big grain of salt. McCullers coming off the DL. He's 21,000 on Fantasy Draft, 9,600 FanDuel, 10.8 on DraftKings. We don't really know exactly what to expect out of him because he's been on the DL. It hasn't been a ton of time, so I don't think you're looking at one of those situations where, the last time he pitched was he's missed roughly 2 outings. So, had been a good bet to go about 6 innings. Definitely a guy that pitches to 100, 110 pitches, high strikeout upside, and that's really what I'm looking for today. I don't mind going with Robbie Ray, but the park is not the greatest. The Phillies built a little bit better to hit left-handed pitching. Don't really love Jacob deGrom because the Giants tend to not strike out and they limit the upside of opposing pitchers. So that's why we're sitting here with McCullers saying, out of the bunch, he probably has the best situation. Seattle, we saw them kind of take it to Joe Musgrove last night, but Musgrove's not as good of a pitcher as McCullers. I feel there's at least enough safety in McCullers that in tournaments I don't mind playing him, but in cash games there's only one guy I'm going to play. and it's very weird. It's Clayton Kershaw. And normally we'd be sitting here and we'd be gushing about the fact that we've got Clayton Kershaw. It's Clayton Kershaw day. But one look through his box scores and you're kind of like, yeah, but has Clayton Kershaw day been that great this year? I mean, we're looking at 52, 24, 56, 55, 49, 28, 56, 37, 46, 58, 19, 64, 55, 37, 37. So, in complete and total honesty, it hasn't been that bad, but we're definitely used to this Clayton Kershaw that's been coming out, rolls up with double-digit strikeout games, and he has 4 of them on the year, so it's not all bad, but it still doesn't, like I said, it just doesn't leave a lot to be desired. I walk away feeling like it's not great, it's just not enough. But here's the good news. Even though we're being hard on Kershaw, and that's what happens, just gotta understand, great baseball pitcher hasn't been producing in fantasy, but that's because we expect Clayton Kershaw every single time he comes out to pitch 1 hit, no runs, no walks, go 9 innings, give us the complete game shutout. That's what we expect out of Kershaw. We just haven't got it as of late. Fortunately, he takes on a Rockies team in Los Angeles that outside of Coors, he has just absolutely dominated. A stat line from earlier this year, his 4th start, 7 innings, 5 hits allowed, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, gets the win, gets a quality start, 55 points. If that is what we're looking at tonight, quite frankly and honestly, that could end up being the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. I'm not going to be afraid to use him in my cash games. In fact, I feel like tonight you're forced into a position where there's no choice but to use him in your cash games. In tournaments, DeGrom has enough of a name value. Ray is getting enough of a name value that I guess you could pivot to them. But personally, I'm betting that these last 2 outings against Cleveland and the Mets have been fluky. I'm going back to the well with Kershaw. I believe he's going to put up a big game tonight. Once again, our 3 favorite tournament options, Dinelson Lamet, Lance McCullers Jr., if he is not on a pitch count, which I don't think he will be, and Clayton Kershaw. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel below. Check us out at researchfantasy.com. Like us on Facebook at Research Fantasy. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.